Hey, and there we are. Welcome to this week's Camera Shake live stream. I'm so happy to be back, and actually this time, as opposed to last week, where I got things wrong, dates predominantly, but this week we have none other than Steve Brazill with us. It's going to be a little bit of a photo critique. It's going to be super awesome, but let me introduce Steve Brazill. Here we go. Oh, and he's not there, and I know why he's not there, because I forgot to do something. Here he is. Boom, there he is.
The number of times I wish I could say, I'm not here. It's like an old Cheech and Chong skit. Dave's not here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last week, because I completely got our Mondays wrong. So we've organized this a little while ago, and I completely got my weeks wrong. So last week I was completely set to meet you online, and then I think you texted me back and said like, "I do realize it's next week, right?" Like, oh, bugger. Never mind.
Yeah, it happens.
Oops. And okay, we've lost Steve. He's going to be back in just 1 second, and we've had this. There's some kind of internet problem going on today. Don't know what it is, but I'm sure he'll be back any second now. Anyway, and there he is. Hang on a minute. Ta-da,
I froze.
Oh, you froze. Okay, well, that's what's happening. Right, okay.
Yeah, it disconnected and I reconnected, which is really weird because I did a speed check and I'm at 900 down and 40 up. So there, I don't know what is going weird today, but wow. Internet.
Okay, we've got Matrim27 saying, "Hi, Steve. Hi, Kirsten. Hi, Matrim27. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for popping in, as we say over here in the UK. It's awesome. It's one of these things, where technology is sort of, it feels like technology is against me today. It's like nothing's happening. As you can probably see from the faded look of my camera, which is still set to a shoot I did a couple of days ago. Duh. Anyhow, it is what it is. We're here.
Yeah, the main thing is, as much as technology seems to give us headaches at times, it is amazing that you are outside of London and I'm in Southern California. And other than a little bit of a delay, we're talking to each other and seeing each other. This is pretty awesome what we can do today.
I know it's pretty crazy, right? I mean, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. And the wonderful thing is, we get to live in a time that our grandparents and parents, thought would just be amazing someday, that we'd have video phones. And now this, yeah.
Do you remember like back in the 80s or something? I was when you were watching like sci-fi movies and something, they had these video phone booths. I remember, was it Blade Runner or something, where it was like a phone booth, but it was a video phone. And I remember back then, I remember thinking like, yeah, that is never going to happen. That's not going to happen. And now we carry them around.
See, I remember as a kid, we'd go to Disneyland, and Disneyland had this thing in the, I don't know what it was, 70s or something, where they had these video booths, and I could go in one and you go in another, and we call each other just from those video booths. And we thought that was amazing. But I still maintain that a lot of the tech that we use today is based on the mental invention of a sci-fi writer. I mean, our first cell phones were giant things, but once they got small, isn't it interesting that they were very much like a Star Trek communicator that flipped open?
Man, and I tell you what, I held out for as long as I could before switching to the actual iPhone. I think I joined the iPhone crew like with the iPhone 4, I think, because I just couldn't get rid of my flip phone. I love my flip phone too much. Just a little wrist flip when you answer a phone call.
Yep. Yeah.
That was it.
It's, and I still think to myself, when cell phones first came out, like the big ones, right? And we'd walk around and we'd talk on a cell phone, and I would always say, yeah, it's just not ready for prime time. You'd constantly drop a signal. It actually amazes me that 25, 30 years later, I'm still walking around driving in my car now going, these aren't ready for prime time because I'm still constantly dropping a signal.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I'm driving through the countryside in Buckinghamshire here, and, half the time I don't have 5G. What a first world problem to have.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like,
Well, yeah. When we were there, I just saw you and Dave Williams, actually, when my wife and I, am I freezing again?
oh, you just gobbled up a
So
little bit.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm freezing really bad, and I don't know why. But I was just there, and you and Dave Williams and I spent the day with you guys giving my wife and I a tour of London, a walking tour. We went everywhere that day, had an absolute blast, finished with a couple of beers. Again, all in all, we live in a pretty amazing time.
I know. That's exactly what I thought. It's really not that bad. In fact, earlier today, my wife and I were sort of just, daydreaming. We're like, oh, well, one day we're going to move to Canada, and we've lost Steve again. Something's up with the internet connection today, but, it'll all be fine. He'll be back in just a second. Anyway, so as I was saying, we discovered today that the world is getting smaller. Yeah, you can literally move anywhere you want, pretty much. Anyway, oh, there he is. Hang on a second.
Okay, I'm back again. So here's the weird thing here. As you know, I do a podcast. I have super fast gigabit internet. I never have issues. For some reason, it's literally disconnecting. I suppose it could be your side. But just to make sure, let me message my wife and make sure she's not doing something on the internet. I think she turned her computer off. There we go.
So, like, move to the Arctic. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, you say move to the Arctic. I'm going to be in the Lofoten Islands in a few weeks' time. And although, well, it's going to be the latter half of September, I think. And I'm already dreading the cold.
And I think I got garbled because I didn't say move to the Arctic. I was saying I need to make sure my wife has her Mac off.
Right.
So this is going to be a weird technical day. And I apologize to everybody for the fact that I'm dropping off.
Right. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to take 1 second in a minute. I'm going to sort out my camera because this is live, right? So this isn't like, a well-prepared podcast episode where everything's set. This is literally live. So these are the sort of problems that that you'd normally face when you put something like this together. The camera's not working the way they should, set to the wrong profile, blah, blah, this and that, the other. So anyway, but that's why I like these live streams so much. It's because, real world stuff happens. It's just how it is.
Yeah, Don Komarechka gives me a hard time because every time I live stream with him, I've got this crazy setup. I'm an IT guy, and it doesn't matter. Inevitably, every live stream, something goes wrong. And it's kind of the beauty of the realness of it, right? I mean, is that you just don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to have a little coffee talk. So the idea of these live streams is that, every week we'll do, or every other week, we'll do something slightly different. And I'm going to have this recurring theme of photo critiques or photo feedback, whatever you want to call it. So the idea is that, people send in their images and we'll have a look at them. And I, of course, rely on my good friend Steve Brazel, who is, a pro photo critiquer. What do you call it? Photo judge? Photo critiquester?
I wouldn't say a pro, but I do. So I did for 2 years on my podcast. I did a critique live streams with Don Komarechka, who is you just had him on your show. Don is a macro genius. And so we did once a month photo critiques for 2 years. And then locally, I do judging for a number of different image competitions. So yeah, we have fun.
Oh, wow. Well, so I'm hoping, actually, because, for those of you who don't know, later on in September, I'm going to be running a photography workshop in the Lofoten Islands with Dave Williams, which is going to be super awesome. It's going to be all about the Lofoten Islands. So there's going to be Northern Lights photography, landscape photography, and we have our own Viking model with us for the whole week. So it's going to be super awesome. So there's going to be some portrait photography,
Reindeer too,
landscape
right?
stuff. Oh, reindeer as well. Yeah, and moose. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dave's just sent me some images of moose. I'm really looking forward to seeing those. But
Okay,
here's
so
the
I
thing.
have to ask, what's the plural of moose? Is it moose?
I think it's just moose.
I think it's just moose. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So in Swedish, it's älgen, I think, if I got my plurals right. Man, I'm learning Swedish, and the plurals are nuts. Mooses. Apparently, it's mooses. Somebody says in the. I don't. Okay, here's a quick ecam issue that you might be able to solve for me, Steve. When I'm looking at the comments, I can see the usernames when people watch on YouTube, but when people comment on Facebook, all I can see is Facebook user. Why is that?
That's a good question. I actually.
Oh, maybe that was one question too much. Steve's gone again. He'll come back. No worries. Anyway, so mooses. Okay. I'm guessing that's probably Dave Williams. Leaving a comment. Is it mooses? I don't know. Anyway, so the idea is we're going to do photo critique. We've got a whole bunch of images lined up for you. So we're gonna run through them. Yes, alien, the moose, multiple. Okay.
I am going to pull up Facebook so I can see the comments there too, but I'm fighting my internet for some reason.
I tell you what.
And I don't know why.
Jesse Fireeisen saying Facebook didn't like you talking smack about them and they booted Steve. And for some reason, so here's another weird thing. Jesse is commenting on Facebook and I can see his name, but previous comments, all I can see is Facebook user. So if I don't mention you by name, forgive me because all it's telling me is Facebook user. Maybe if you put your name, if you're watching on Facebook, just put your name at the beginning before the actual comment, then I know who's leaving the comment, so I can respond accordingly. That's not fair. Yeah, no, it's not fair. Sorry about that. That's not fair. Facebook user, what's your name? I don't know. Anyway, so what was I saying? Hi, all Facebook user. Again, remember if you're on Facebook for some strange reason, I can't see your name, so just put your name.
Oh, that was
in the
me
comment
actually.
first. Oh, was it? Okay, cool. Oh, Sean. Okay, Sean Luthwaite joined us from Stockholm. We had a great time in Stockholm only a few weeks ago. Actually, I think it's 72 days ago because I started learning Swedish since then, and I'm upholding my Duolingo streak, working hard on that. Anyway, so the plan for today is we've got a whole bunch of images ranging from we've got some toy photography, we've got some portrait photography, we'll also have some wildlife photography going on. So it should be quite interesting. I'm here, obviously, I'm going to join in with the critique, but I'm also here to learn. So, we'll all learn together. One of the things somebody said to me once in a conversation about photo competitions in general is that, just by listening to the judges' comments, you can actually learn a lot of stuff, which will help you in your own photography, which is awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to switch over to the first image. It's going to be a bit of a blind critique because Steve doesn't know who the photographer behind the image is. By the way, here's another quick question for you, and this might be a UK thing, but in camera clubs in the UK, when people talk about the person who took a particular image, they're usually called authors. Is that what you call the photographer in the States?
So normally, like if we're doing an image competition or something like that and we're judging it, we don't know who it is, we refer to them generally as the maker. So, the maker may have intended to do this, but same basic concept.
Yeah. So here's the author, and it freaks me out every time because I'm always thinking like, what, they wrote a book? Is that what's happening here? So,
right.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna throw up the first image. Whilst that's happening, Steve, I'm gonna let you have a quick sort of look at that image and a quick gander. Whilst you're doing that, I'm going to just sort out my camera because this is driving me nuts now. So here's the first image, guys, and here he goes.
Ah, yes. A modeling shot. All right.
What do you think about that one?
You want me to say go now?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Okay, so it's going to be interesting to see what people in the comments say about this image. Um, there's a lot of opinions actually I have on this image the more that I look at it. So first of all, to the maker of the image, I really, really think you made some really, really good compositional choices, right? The placement of the ferns, not intersecting this beautiful model's body, the striping colors that you've got matching the bathing suit color. In particular, the head angle and the hair being placed above her head, but leaning up to frame right away from the palm and filling that space in the upper right. You made some really, really good positional choices. Her legs at a little bit of an angle to come down to match the slats of color. I really.
Oops, and I think Steve's gone again. No problemo though. We're gonna get him back online in just 1 second. I'm afraid that's what we're gonna have to put up with today. But there we go. Okay, here we go. And Steve's back.
So I'm back. This is going to be the weirdest day of my life. Oh my God. All right. I don't know how much you heard, so I'm going to try it one more time. What the maker of this image did, I absolutely love. I think that you made some really, really good compositional choices. The leg, they come down at a slight angle to mimic that backdrop that you've got. Her arm and hair filling the spot in the upper frame right. The ferns filling under the arm or to the left of her shoulder and her head. You made some really nice positional type choices here. Here's what, and in particular, her face looking up to the blank area and the hair, instead of just going straight up, going up towards camera right, filling in that spot. I love all of that. Here's what to me would make the image of this beautiful model even stronger. Number one, it's all about the light. When I see a portrait, I assume that you had full control over this lighting. And yet, her breast area, her chest, her rib cage, that's where the bulk of the light is. There's a huge reflection and highlight on her rib cage just below the bathing suit top. It's also on the inside of the arm that's up, and then you have two strip light looking almost like fluorescent bulb strips coming down the thigh. But none of that is really on her face. A little bit on her cheekbone. But here's what would make this better is do a little shaping with your light, either in camera by shaping the light with, grids or whatever, or in post. Just go in and burn down that rib cage area so that the brightest spot in the image isn't the inside of her bicep or her rib cage, but is her face. I will almost always look at the brightest spot of the image. Most people will. The brightest or the most saturated. So in this case, if you ever want to find out where the brightest spot in your image is, flip the image upside down, Command right bracket or left bracket in Lightroom. Look at it upside down and you'll immediately realize her face is not the brightest spot here. If you brought that down, I think it would be better. The hand that's on the bathing suit bottom grabbing the belt and ring. I like your idea there, but the bend in her wrist is so 90 degrees and unnatural. I don't think that's as flattering to her, nor is the fact that her hand is gripped in that certain way. If you were to, oh, that's weird. I'm seeing your camera with the picture.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second.
Interesting. Yeah, it's blinking back and forth.
How weird. How bizarre.
There we go.
Very strange. Okay.
It's a cool look. So anyway, let me continue with what I was saying, and that was that hand at the bottom. If her three main fingers, if just her thumb and index finger were holding the belt, and her other fingers kind of came out and across the bottom, and a little less sharp bend in the wrist would look more soft and flattering, and kind of the same with the arm up at the hair. I understand what you were going for, but because that side of the bathing suit top has a shoulder strap, the other side doesn't. With her arm being up like that, that full piece of fabric separates her shoulder and inner bicep, making it almost appear larger. which isn't flattering to her. If you had brought the elbow down just a little bit, put a little bend in that underarm, I think it would be a little bit more flattering to this beautiful model.
Cool. Okay, I am just working on some other technical issues here right now.
No problem.
Can you see me?
I cannot see you, which makes me feel better since I've disconnected like 5 times now. Hey, Sebastian, how are you doing, man? Kathy, good to see you in here. And of course,
Oh, and there he is, gone again. I've never had anything happening like this. Anyway, you guys can't see me either, but hopefully you can hear me. David Crooks is saying, good critique, the highlights are big. I'm going to just switch back to that first image. I really like this image. I like the opposing colors are beautiful. I'm really digging the orange and the green contrast. That's I'm liking it a lot. Anyway, Steve is back. Hang on a second.
What's funny is this has literally never happened to me that I've disconnected this much. I'm not sure if it's my connection, your connection, but again, to everybody, my apologies if it is on my side.
It's the weirdest. Whatever is happening, it is the weirdest thing. I'm just totally confused as to why.
Now, I will say, David Crooks in the YouTube chat, thank you very much for the comment. And I was saying when I got disconnected, because I did need to say, Dave, it is so good to see you in here.
Absolutely. All right, shall we move on to the second image?
Did you want to do this one, or did you while I was gone?
No, I tell you what, you continue whilst I'm trying to figure out what's going wrong on my side, because I'm having some video issues here, which is very bizarre. I don't know why that's happening.
Okay, so I'll continue on this one. And if I disconnect again, trust me, I will be back. Now, what's interesting is the YouTube stream. Are we even streaming? Because on the YouTube stream, I don't see the picture. I don't know what the delay is there. Maybe it just hasn't come up yet. So on this shot, first of all, I love this type of imagery, right? This stare down the barrel of the lens type imagery. However, a couple of things I'd point out in this shot. Number one, again, beautiful model working here. And it's that kind of subdued presentation, right? So the processing on this is a muted color palette, a muted lighting palette, all of which I like. However, whenever I think of a model shot, I still always think to myself, what's the most flattering for the model as a whole? Okay. And somebody, by the way, David just mentioned that he is seeing the photo on YouTube, but I am not seeing the photo on Facebook, just so that you know.
Okay, I'm going to have a quick look at that. It's coming through on YouTube, okay? If you guys are listening or watching on Facebook, just let me know if you can see the photo right now. That'd be good.
And what's interesting is right now I see you talking on YouTube, but I see the photo on the virtual camera that I'm getting.
You see me talking? Well, that's even more interesting because I can't see myself. I'm just getting black screen.
Yeah, and the feed I'm getting from you, is the picture. So maybe it's just the 30-second delay, but I want to make sure that we're up to speed. Matthew also said that it's coming through on YouTube, but I'm watching YouTube. Let me just see if maybe I'm just not up to speed. Let me get
yes, it looks like it's fine. It looks like it's fine. On
there
YouTube.
We go. All right, I see where we're at. My YouTube feed had just fallen off, is what it was.
Right.
That makes more sense. Okay, so let me get back to this shot. Couple of things, and again, to everybody, this is the technical world of live streaming. My apologies. While I love the subdued kind of lighting and softness and color palette in a shot like this, and I really do love that.
There we are.
There are a couple of things that I would say would help this image become stronger. Okay. First of all, the loose shirt coming down, absolutely love the kind of subtle boudoir effect of her not, wearing any undergarments. Again, very, very nice, very, very subtle. The fact that it's draped off her shoulders, I like. I almost think, though, while I like the fact that it's draped sideways off both shoulders, I think it's draped too far backwards. It feels like it's pulling back on her. And there's a tension there that's not comfortable for me. I kind of wish the collar was back up closer to her neck. I think it would look like less tension is a good way to word it. I see the softbox in her eyes, beautiful catch lights in her eyes.
Oop. And that is, that's technology getting in the way one more time. Anyway, so what we're going to do is, let me just switch to this so we can see that, wow. And Steve is back.
Yeah, I'm back. Hold on. Fun. It's afternoon and I need a drink.
Oh no. It's
just Diet Coke, but I need a drink. So here we go. So back to this picture here. Let me just finish up really quick before I die again. I don't know if anybody understands what I mean by the shirt's almost like back too far and it feels like somebody's holding it from behind. I wish it was a little more relaxed front-wise. It's also not even. Like, I don't like the fact that I see a little bit of the collar frame left, but I don't frame right, which I think is kind of key. And last but not least, she's not centered in the frame. So there's a whole bunch of space camera right of her shoulder, but less space, and her arm hits the edge of the frame, camera left. I would crop or center as needed for that. And this is a picky one that some people may disagree with, and that is her facial expression to me could be better. I understand, again, I started by saying I love that look down the barrel of the lens feel, but I almost wish she was squinting a little bit, or that I could read an emotion, whether it be intrigue or anger or alluring or sadness, or I wish I could see something more than just a stare.
See, for me, I actually think there's sort of a degree of mystery in there, which I really quite like. And I know, I know it was like the comment earlier, the shirt's not even, that's true, but I actually quite like that about this image. I like the fact that it's not 100% symmetrical. I like the fact that it's a little bit muted, and because the colors in this image all fit into the same color palette, if you know what I mean. It's
agreed.
Like,
that's true. That is true.
And it's like, it really works for me. It works for me that the whites aren't 100% white, the blacks are not 100% black. It's sort of somewhere, and there's something about this image that I find really quite intriguing, and it's this, it's that thing. It's almost like I would call it like a modern portrait, where things aren't necessarily 100% perfect. And I quite like it. There's something about this that I really quite like.
It is very model-esque. For me, I pulled this shot into Lightroom just now, and looking at the histogram, there is really nothing from probably, I don't know, 200 to 255 on the histogram. Like, there's no whites in there. If you just hit auto in Lightroom, to me, this gets a pop that I understand the maker didn't want. I understand that. This is clearly by choice that the maker did this. And I applaud that you do the art you want. For me, while I like the subdued look, I think adding just a little bit more white in would also give me a better sense of energy, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So I remember a funny story. It's one of probably the first time, but the first or the second time I took part in a photo competition at a camera club. I entered 3 prints, and they were I entered 1 black and white print. And it was a part of a series that I did where I actually shot my children. And they were all headshots, essentially, but very cropped in headshots. And they were black and white, and they were on purpose very subdued. So they were, like, on purpose, the blacks weren't black, on purpose, the whites weren't white. They were a little bit washed out, but that was the look. And they look great on the wall, by the way. Absolutely awesome. But that was, I think the feedback I got from the judge on that night was very similar. It's like, oh, okay, the whites are not white, the black points are not where they should be, da, da, da. And I kept thinking to myself, I mean, it's a valid comment. Valid comment. But of course, the problem is that and yes, Steve's gone. He'll be back in a second, no doubt. I think the problem is always that, of course, when you're critiquing a photo, you can only really see it from your perspective, and of course that may be very different from what the maker or author, if you're in the UK, intended. And Steve's back. And you're back.
Wow, this is the weirdest day.
I know, right?
You were saying though about the comment that it being valid.
Yeah. I mean, it's a valid comment, because the thing is, of course, when one of the things that I always hammer down when I do talks, or when I teach in general, is that when you create an image, you need to shoot with intent. Whatever it is that you do, you have to shoot with intent, right? And that's because otherwise you're just living with happy accidents, or you get through a lot of crap, essentially, But whatever your intent is, and I think sometimes, when the intention is somewhat different, maybe a little bit more creative, or somewhat different from the beaten path, do you know what I mean? Then of course it's easy for somebody else looking at the picture not to get it, so to say. And what I always find is with photo, like generally with like photo competitions, especially at camera clubs, of course, the judge can never know what the original intent actually was.
Correct.
And that's in a sense, because I remember one. I just told that story, but whilst you were off air, I entered a print of a black and white shot of one of my daughters into a competition, and the idea there was to really keep it really subdued and to not, almost to give it like a filmic look. But the judge really didn't get that whatsoever, and so although again, although the comments were valid from an objective point of view, but in another way they almost like weren't valid, because that wasn't the intention. I had actually intended for it to look like that.
So here's the interesting thing about that. This is such a great conversation. I think really important for people to understand. So in a local photo group type competition, you're correct. The judges don't know who made the picture. They don't know the intent. And a lot of times they are told the title of the shot first, right? Puppy dog in the woods. They get that in their head, and then the shot comes up in front of them, right? And when the shot comes up in front of them, if it's a picture of nothing but desert, and in the small distance is a dog, the judge is left wondering, I don't understand what story you're trying to tell me, because you titled it Puppy Dog in the Woods, but this doesn't strike me as woods, and the puppy dog is this large in the middle of this giant photograph. The reason I bring that up is because even when the judge doesn't know the maker's intent for an image, so your intent may be X, the judge pulls it up, and with the information they have available to them, they see Y.
Yeah.
That's important for the maker to understand, because even though the maker, and I've been on this side of it, where I'm sitting in a room during an image competition having my image critiqued, this one that's on the wall behind me of the hand up in the air at a concert, and one judge loved it, and the other judge's comment was, it looks like the back of a bunch of people's heads. And the other judge was like, no, that's every concert I've ever been to. It tells me the story of that.
Yeah.
The key distinction with that is that even if you're sitting in the back of the room like Steve did going, you're an idiot and you don't understand my art. You don't understand what I'm trying to do. If all you take away from a comment is, I never knew somebody would see that in this image. Like I submitted this image and I wanted it to be muted, and I wanted it to be off balance and I wanted some tension. Cool. Never thought anybody would see something different than that. That's a great learning
Yeah.
experience for you.
I had a similar experience. This must have been probably the, I don't know, maybe the second or third image that I ever entered into a competition. And it was basically, it was a shot entitled The Rock. It was called The Rock. It was a shot of Alcatraz Island, and Steve's gone again, but I'm just going to tell you the story anyway. It was a shot of Alcatraz Island taken from a boat. And it was actually, so I was on the other side of Alcatraz Island, shooting it from the back with the San Francisco skyline in the background, with the Transamerica building and everything. And Steve's back. Way, how's it going?
It was a shot entitled The Rock. I got that far.
Okay, yeah.
And the funny thing is, while this happened, I just said to my wife, "Is anything on out there?" No, nothing is on. I just did a speed test. I'm still at 900 down and 40 up. I don't know. Anyway, you were saying.
Very bizarre. Anyway, yeah. So I've just told the whole story to everybody listening. Let's do it again. Anyway, it was in a nutshell. It was a shot of Alcatraz Island taken from the back of the island, with the San Francisco skyline in the background. So you had the island in the foreground, or the midground, really. I was in the boat. The San Francisco skyline in the background. Very obviously, the San Francisco skyline. You had the Transamerica building in there, and what's it called? Is it called Coit Tower? I can't remember. Something like that.
Coit Tower, Coit Hill.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called, yeah.
Yeah, so you can see these landmarks. And to me, I thought it was blatantly obvious that was San Francisco and that was Alcatraz Island. And the title of the image was The Rock. I mean, in my head, it was like, it's a no-brainer, right? Anyway, the judge looked at the image and went, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, is that a building site on an island or something? And there's some kind of city in the background. I have no idea what this is. Is this a ruin? No idea. And basically just went, oh, well, and I moved on to the next image and I'm thinking like, wow, I thought it was super obvious. What do you need, the Golden Gate Bridge? I mean, did you ever see?
You'd seen it in picture. Heck, there was a movie based called The Rock.
Right.
I had one where I submitted a shot. It's around here somewhere. I called Singing Zombie, and it was a black and white picture of Rob Zombie on a microphone. And I thought, I'm being so cool here, man. I'm nailing it. And the guy brought it up and goes, I don't know. Is this a scene from a movie? I don't understand. I'm like, oh man.
Crazy time.
But it matters, That's the thing is whatever you hear a judge say, when people send me images to critique, I always start with a big disclaimer saying, look, I can say X, Y, Z, and you can hate me for it. If you get nothing else from my comments, and if I tell you I dislike an image and it should be taken out of your portfolio and it's your favorite image, look, if you want to leave it in your portfolio, leave it in your portfolio. If you get nothing else from it except to get an idea of what somebody saw that wasn't there, didn't smell the smells, didn't taste the drink, didn't hear the music, right? Somebody who has no connection with the moment that you're reliving in your head when you see that picture, if you get nothing else but, wow, somebody who wasn't there sees X, it's a win. That's why image critique to me is the fastest way to get better at your photography.
Yeah, and that's exactly the thing. It just goes to show that just because you think things are obvious, like in my case, I thought this was obviously Alcatraz Island and this was obviously San Francisco in the background. It doesn't necessarily mean to say that other people necessarily know what that even is, And so that's always the thing, isn't it? Anyway, with that in mind, we're going to hit the button again and we're going to get image 3. I might be in the background. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Oh, I'm not. Excellent. Cool. Here we go.
Okay. So this is Deadpool playing the guitar. And it's interesting looking at this. I'm left wondering, is this toy photography like Jesse, who's in the Facebook chat, would do? Or is this, somebody went to Midjourney and said, give me Deadpool with a guitar jumping in the air on a smoky stage with Marshall amps in the background? And it could be either one. I'm, from the look of the doll, the toy, I'm guessing that this is probably somebody propped him up and then removed it. The smoke looks good. The smoke to me, part of what pulls me out of this being reality is two things: the lighting and the smoke, and actually three things: the guitar neck. So the smoke has a texture overlay, almost like a grunge overlay on it, that makes the smoke look.
Oh, and there he is gone again. Oh dear. Okay. In the meantime, hang on a second. Here we are. Okay, we've got some comments. Let me just go through a few comments. Very interesting to get others' point of view in my work. I can see exactly what they see, but certain parts will stand out more to them than to me. And that's that's exactly my experience as well. You cannot, you never know what other people see in your shot. It's it's crazy.
I'm trying now to figure out. Now, my video's not there, but I'm assuming you can hear me.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out how on the internet over a video to do a walk of shame that I keep disconnecting. So the smoke to me looks like an overlay because they put the grunge overlay on it, and that's weird. The other thing is the light beam coming from the upper right is kind of technically behind him the way that he's facing, and yet it's lighting the front of the guitar. And obviously there's another light beam hitting his right thigh, but there's something a little overexposed. I'd like to see this more dark and muted. And lastly is this toy is flawed right above his fingers, which made me think it was Midjourney. Right above his fingers, it's missing a chunk of the guitar neck, and the guitar neck looks warped, like almost like it melted in the sun. Now, again, it could be real, but that made me wonder if this is not. Now, that said, assuming that this is toy photography, so many things you did right here. The position of the arm, the head being down and cocked sideways like a real guitarist would do. There's a lot of things you did in here that sell it. The foot not intersecting the bass in the background. I'm wondering why the bass is laying against the amp when they're clearly playing, but still, a lot of things that you did here that are right. There's just some things, one of them just bring down the exposure. I think it'd make it a lot stronger.
Yeah, it's toy photography is one of these things I've only really maybe over the last 6 months or something really paid attention to that genre, and I'm I'm really fascinated with the amount of detail that people put into into toy photography. Everything from the obvious toys, and the way that they're sometimes, not only necessarily bought in a shop, but like, painted and made to look good, almost like you would when you're doing costumes and masks or something at the, on a movie set or something. And then of course backgrounds and smoke and lighting and all the rest of it it's really fascinating to me. And I have to say, I really like the lighting on this as well. It really works for me. I've never managed to look this cool playing the guitar, by the way. That's
Oh, yes, you have.
I really haven't. I played a gig yesterday, and I saw some of the footage of that gig. It really didn't look cool whatsoever. Anyhow, but what's interesting to me is always like when, especially when we see images of toys suspended in the air. I'm always fascinated with the the contraption necessary to actually pose these figures. Little, I don't know, arms and rods and whatever else to get them into position. So that in itself fascinates me quite a bit. With this one, I'm thinking I do agree with the guitar neck. There's something weird going on there. I can't really put my finger on it. It looks like it's a little bit bent, maybe, or something.
Yeah, and if you zoom in, it's missing part of it.
Oh, right, okay.
So I would say find a spot that's not missing and take the time to clone that in. If that's a toy that's damaged, fix it in Photoshop.
Yeah, or maybe it's a masking issue. I mean, I'm just wondering if
Could be.
if that toy is actually, if Deadpool is not really there, but it's been, put in there. So maybe it's a masking issue. Not too sure. Anyway, or it might just be a broken toy.
Could be. Yeah, could be.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's a really, really cool shot. The two stage lights from the top left and top right. I think it gives it a really nice triangular sort of look. There are lots of triangles going on there, which I really like. The They're the lights, they're the legs. There are a lot of shapes that are happening, and Steve's gone again, but I'm sure he'll be back any second. Anyway, hi Pam, good to see you on here. Fantastic. Thanks for dropping by. David Crook says, I hate when a judge doesn't get it. And there's a car drifting with smoking tires, and the judge thought it was steam. Oh, okay. Did it have like a steampunk look? Not too sure. Anyhow, plus the real guitar in the bottom right for scale. Oh, okay. Yes. That looks like a bass guitar to me. So bass guitars are generally bigger than regular guitars. So it might be a little bit deceiving. It'd be cool. I mean, if this whole thing was a set, like as in like it was actually built with the Marshall amps, I'd totally take my hat off because that would be, majorly awesome. But let's see what's happening. Let's see if Steve's coming back. Anyway, so in the meantime, what else is happening? Let me see if I can switch back to you. Hey, Steve, are you back?
You can't hear me?
I can.
I'm here.
You. Yes. Cool. Excellent. I can't see you though.
Really odd. Really odd. Why is my video not working? Hold on. Wow. Hold on. Let me just. I have never had a day like this in my life. This is really bizarre.
Okay, so here's a compliment though. Pam saying, my two favorite voices in the YouTube photography world. There you go. Both on one. At least you can see one. You can see one of them. And the other one is hidden, shrouded in darkness, as they say. But there you go. I'm sure Steve will be back. I no idea what's going on with the internet today. It's not, everything seems to be working fine on this end, with the exception that, well, there's some issues here too. Never mind. In the meantime, I'll tell you what, whilst we're pulling our hair out, trying to work out what is going on with technology today, you can see I clearly need a coffee. So
I have no idea why I have no video now.
Okay, cool. In the meantime, guys, if you're if you want to support the podcast, or enable us to make this live stream more reliable, you can always head over to buymeacoffee.com/CameraShake and buy me coffee, because I need it. If there's one thing I need right now, I need a coffee. That's for sure.
I've completely lost my video at this point.
Yeah, funnily enough, I lost my video earlier, and so I'm wondering whether it's got something to do with, I don't know, maybe with the Ecamm server or something. Oh, David Crook says, we have tornado warnings in the Washington, D.C. area. Seriously. Wow, what is going on with the weather? The weather's been crazy. And I'm just going to talk about the weather, because that's a British thing to do. So whilst we're waiting for Steve to get back online, might as well just talk about the weather before we hit the next photo. But the weather's been crazy. I don't know where you live, if it's like that, but here in the UK, it's been nuts. There was a massive heat wave for weeks and weeks all over Europe. It was crazy, except for the UK. The UK, it was just raining. It was cold and rainy. There was really a summer.
We're back.
Oh, the video's back. There we go.
It's what's really weird is for those of you that are out there watching a live stream go nuts. It's almost as though it's something with Ecamm, because anytime I'm trying to narrow down why I keep disconnecting, and it seems to be anytime I touch a browser window that's not the one Ecamm is in.
Oh.
So maybe it's a conflict with Safari, and I need to reopen Ecamm in Chrome because it does like Chrome better. That could be it. So if I disconnect again, it's gonna take a little longer to reconnect, because I'm gonna boot up Chrome and do it that way.
Right. Or just don't touch any browsers. That might be the other thing. Just don't touch.
Yeah, I haven't in a while, but we'll see. Wow.
Okay, we've got a few more comments. The weather's exactly the same here in Ireland, weather-wise. Oh, so we've got people listening in Ireland. That's interesting. Actually, I tell you what, if you're listening, just to pop a little comment in the comments and let me know where you're watching or listening from. Obviously, we've got Ireland, fantastic. The Washington D.C. area, super awesome. Yeah, just put a little comment in and let us know where you are and how you're watching this. Pam's asking, how did you guys meet? How did we meet, Steve? I can't remember. Actually, no, I do
Uh,
remember.
go for it.
Okay, Norway and Stockholm coming in as well. Fantastic, man. We're worldwide, worldwide, worldwide technology fail. Oh, and Tulsa. Ooh, Tulsa King. Oh man, I'm waiting for the second
Yeah,
season 2 of
Pam's
that.
in Tulsa. I've known Pam for a long time. She's a longtime listener of my show, um, and does a lot of her own stuff. She's a headshot and portrait photographer. And Melody here is also a longtime listener of my show. Um, uh, the way I met you was Dave Williams.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So Dave's a mutual friend, and we have somebody listening or watching in Norway. I'm suspicious that's probably Dave listening. If
Could
it
be.
is, just so yeah, it could very well be. Yeah, Dave introduced us, and that was, yeah,
Yep, it is Dave. He says Norway. Yep.
cool. And we've got Melody is in Eastern Pennsylvania. Oh wow, okay, fantastic, cool. So
Melody, if you've never seen Melody's work, like right now, I'm having weird issues. I'm trying to connect. I have two lights behind me that are blue usually. I turn them on with an app on my phone, open the app, and the app crashes. I'm having a technical nightmare today. Melody, if you've never seen her work, Melody is an amazing photographer that does bird photography that will blow your mind. Like really, really good.
phenomenal. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to, actually, in the Lofoten Islands at the most is, getting the opportunity to photograph some wildlife, because that's really not my, what do they say? It's not my boathouse, whatever they say, my wheelhouse.
Wheelhouse.
Yeah, completely not my wheelhouse. Why do I think boathouse? I'm thinking fjords. I don't know. I'm already there. Mentally, I'm already there. But yeah, so yeah, wildlife and landscape photography, not really my wheelhouse at all. But I am really looking forward to having the opportunity and improving that. But if you do want to learn, actually, then there's no better place to learn than the Lofoten Islands. So if you head over to idavewilliams.com, check out the Lofoten workshops there. Fantastic opportunity, obviously, has to be said, and there's still spaces available as well, so that's even better. Anyway,
Yeah,
cool.
and it looks like such a great workshop. And somebody that I know is going, no names being mentioned, said to me when I said they talked to me about going, and their comment to me was, "Look, I do portraits. I don't feel like I'm going to need."
And Steve's gone, man, this is that's an interesting live stream. Anyhow, cool. What else have we got? We've got okay, love seeing you guys here live. Cool. Well, at the moment you're only seeing one of us. Hopefully, I don't know. Maybe maybe it's an alien attack. Maybe that's what's happening. We're being invaded. Okay, cool. Well, I'll tell you what, whilst we're waiting for Steve to come back, I'm going to just have a little preview for the next image. So here's the next image. So we've got another image of Deadpool. It's a concert shot. And it's a typical end of the show pose. Again, we've got the two stage lights coming in from the left and the right. Loving that. Again, there are a lot of triangles going on there. We've got the audience in front. We've got a spotlight on the main artist, backlit from where we're standing, and we've got a really cool shadow that the main character is casting behind him. So it's all in all, it's a really cool image. What I really like is that little highlight on the body of the guitar, because that's really where that would be if it were lit like that. I'm trying to work out. I mean, there's probably two things. There's two things that are happening here. One is obviously the figures being lit, but then I'm guessing. So the background is either composited in or it's a screen, because that's one of the things I've found very useful is to actually have shoot a figure or a toy in front of a computer screen and then put any image onto the computer screen. Dave saying the shadow doesn't look right. I don't know. Maybe. It might have been altered a little bit. I think I'm not sure on the left-hand side what that is. If that's supposed to be the shadow of the hand, which it probably is, or the guitar headstock is probably the hand. But overall, I do like some of the highlights on the guitar. I also like the almost like the brim lighting around the legs and the arm and the shoulder there. One of the problems with backlighting anything in portraiture, it's the same thing, is that you often get lights. You get light spill, and what it does is it kills the contrast a little bit, and that's, I think that's what's happening here a little bit. Maybe I'd like to see a little bit more contrast. Maybe it's a little bit too flat. But again, when you're backlighting anything, if your backlight's too strong, then it will kill the contrast on the other side. You have that very often when you're blowing out, when you're shooting any headshot or portrait on a white background, for example, and you're lighting the background. If you're putting too much light onto the background, this light gets reflected from the background onto the back of the head, for example, of your subject. And if that's too much light, if there's too much of a reflection, then that starts to creep across the rim of your head and your hair, and then what happens is it literally blows out the contrast on the face. So that's a bit of a problem. So the key there is always to make sure that you're not going too crazy with your background lights, because even if your background is not 100% blown out, it's better to err on the side of caution and actually keep that light a little bit lower, because you can always fix that in afterwards. Not a problem. Anyway, so that's something that is happening. Hang on. Here we go. Steve is back, but I cannot assign him for some reason. Let me just see. Oh, Steve is back. Can you hear me? Okay, it doesn't look like he can hear me. Okay. Can you hear me, Steve? Can you hear me? I can see you.
I can't hear you now.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you well. I can hear you fine.
Oh my gosh.
Loving it. It seems like live streaming is a science in its own right. I think that's what's happening. Okay. It's a wonderful thing. So we'll definitely have to do this again, Steve. 100%.
I have no sound. I have no sound. Why do I have no sound?
We can hear you well. Anyway, so whilst while Steve is working with that, we're just going to have another look at this image here. Okay, let me know in the comments if you are what your impression of this image. Okay, we can hear you both. Excellent. Cool. Okay. So let's.
So I know you can hear me because I can see the mic going, but I'm getting no audio from you whatsoever.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So this is Chrome. That's what I did was I rebooted and I used Chrome.
Oh, okay, cool.
But Chrome is definitely not being happy with me. So I'll be back.
We can hear you.
I'm gonna go.
All right, cool. Live streaming magic. Yeah, interesting. I haven't done many of these live streams, but I have to say that the last few I did were actually all right. I mean, we've all been in live purgatory at some point. Oh man, the difference between doing live streaming and making a podcast episode is that when something goes wrong whilst you're recording a podcast episode, it doesn't really matter because you edit it out in the end, so it's no big deal. The only thing is it's the frustration that you spend more time editing it afterwards. That's frustrating. But other than that, it's.
Oh, now I can hear. So Safari, I can hear you. Chrome, I can't hear you. This is just going to be one of those days.
Excellent. Oh man,
my apologies.
I'll tell you what, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with it, though. It's oh man, this hasn't exactly gone as planned. Anyway, so I've just had
Wow.
a little preview of the next image. Here it is. What do you think, Steve?
Yep. So this is another one of those toy images that, is clearly either some AI involvement or compositing involvement. And actually on this one, I think the maker of the image made a lot of great choices. Again, with the triangles. Lights from both corners go down towards the stage, make a triangle with the stage. In between the two lights coming at the both angles, you have a triangle that the entire upper half of the body and the guitar is in, and the little light reflection off the bottom corner of the guitar. The hand at the bottom left being away from the body, right? I just lost all my picture on this side so that you know.
Okay.
I'm going to keep going, just assuming that everybody can hear me. The hand at the top being not straight up, but off to camera right, and the hand that's down being away from the body. There are so many amazing, the feet being apart, the shadow showing the hand. So a lot of people in making this image would create that shadow and forget to put the hand in there. Like they'd make the body and not put the hand in there. Now, I don't believe it's a real shadow. I believe it's created. Even if it is real, I think you could dress it up to be more believable. The hand shadow looks too blobby. I think it should be thinner. The V that the legs make is very blunted in the shadow, as though the light is coming straight down as opposed to at the angles that it appears from the crowd. Great crowd background, right? Great distressed look on the stage for the shadow there. I think there's a few things you could do to bring this to the next level, but overall, I think the maker really nailed something with this one.
Fantastic. Cool. I tell you what, we're gonna hop straight on to the next image, which is this one here.
Vader
and
guitars.
Vader guitars. That, of course, that speaks to me directly, seeing that, I spent probably the most part of my life playing guitar. But here we have a stormtrooper playing the guitar. I really love this image. It's very cool. I like the way it's lit. I like the reflection on the ground there. The only thing I would say is the lighting on it is maybe a little bit uneven. Obviously, the top half of the stormtrooper is lit considerably more than the bottom half. That may just be because of the way that the light's positioned, and of course the body of the guitar is probably blocking that from reaching the lower half. I just have a little bit of a problem making out where that other leg is, especially when I'm looking at on my screen right now. So I would have probably maybe put a reflector in there just to punch a little bit more light in there. It's so to be expected that that's a shadow. Maybe it's just dropping off a little bit too much for me. The light's very hard, and that's always going to create harder shadows. So in that respect, that's probably to be expected. I think I can see a slightly textured background, or maybe it's some smoke. It's very hard to make out on my screen at the moment. But what do you think?
I think it's supposed to be smoke, and actually on this one, the smoke is not too gritty. It's not too grungy. It's much more believable on my screen. And so that everybody knows when I do something like this, these are color calibrated displays that I'm on, which is key to seeing some of this. A lot of times if I say to you, I think.
Oop. And he's gone again. Whoopee. Oh, man. This has been so much fun. Anyway, for those of you who are still hanging in there, thank you so much for hanging around. We've got a couple more pictures coming up, so, hang around for the rest of it. So we'll see. And Steve's back. There you are.
So to continue, before I lose it again, you should hear me when I'm off camera now. If I say to you that it's too bright or it's overexposed, one of two things. Either you intended it and I didn't like it, or I see that it's overexposed and you didn't because your screen isn't calibrated properly. So that's a key thing. Totally agree with Kirsten. The back leg is too dark. Definitely need to fill that somehow. The biggest issue that I have with this, I love the concept. I love the position. The guitar neck is too high. The guitar itself, from the angle you're shooting at, is too high. If it was down lower to the waist and the head of the guitar was lowered away from the neck of the mask, I think it would be better. You're V'ing off the head. The head is literally being amputated by the guitar in a way. Get that away from the neck. I think it would make a stronger image.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that. There's a danger sometimes when you're. So one of the things I try to avoid, like the plague, really, when I'm doing portraits, is, and you don't do a lot of. For those of you who've seen the Three Heads in a Row series that I do, basically it's close-up portraits of people handling some kind of object of some description, and I try and avoid, like the plague, to have any crossover. I try to avoid anything crossing over into the chin line. So whatever it is that somebody's holding, I try to avoid that basically breaking with the chin line, and that's a really
right,
because what that does is it really takes away from the head and the face, and the face is always the most prominent thing in a portrait. Always, because we're drawn to the face, we're drawn to the eyes, and we're drawn to the face. And anything that breaks with that chin line gets in the way with that. And so whatever it is that you're holding, whether it's a guitar or whatever, I always try and avoid that breaking. When I mean break, it's basically anything that's breaking this line. So anything
right.
that's obscuring even just a tiny bit of the face, that to me then is in the wrong position. So whatever it is that I'm holding, I haven't got a guitar. I've got a guitar around me here, but you see what I mean. Anyway. So
Actually,
that for me, so
speaking of that, can you pull up the model in the bathing suit?
There we go.
That was one thing I was going to say on this one, was that dividing line between the orange and the green goes right through the middle of her eye.
Yes.
That's kind of what he's talking about there too. You want to be careful where things intersect.
Yeah, exactly. And especially, in this example here, by breaking the chin line, you're basically starting to block parts of the face. And even if it's just a little bit, it really takes away from the impact that a face has. And one of the most prominent things about a Stormtrooper is that helmet. I mean, that helmet is such an iconic design.
Yep.
So again, you're absolutely right. The guitar is just a tad too high. I know a lot of classical players. In fact, I used to teach classical guitar for a long time. And of course, you actually do hold the guitar fairly high, maybe not quite that high, but the concept itself is absolutely beautiful. And by the way, I mean, we're like nitpicking here. I feel, because it's such a great image. Yeah. So, but yeah, the reflection is such a nice touch. It's that smoke with the reflection as well. It's just that's a really nice touch. The pose itself is really cool. I think it's sort of a power slide type of a pose. I've attempted that many times on stage and failed pretty much every single time. Usually ended up on my face or in the audience.
And actually, even so, the reflection I love because it was also done so tastefully, right? It wasn't over pushed, like I really want people to see this reflection, and it overcooked. But just adding Vader guitars,
yeah,
makes this shot.
Yeah, in a lightsaber type of font, though. Oh, in a lightsaber, with a lightsaber kind of look. That in itself is excellent. Yeah, I mean, great image. Just like all the images we've seen today, absolutely fantastic. So, phenomenal work. Oh, and Steve is back. Here we go. Back in the room. Ta-da!
I got nothing left to say to excuse. No. Let me just say this: Charter Spectrum, you and I have to have a talk.
Okay.
That's my ISP.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So. Yeah. So that was I like that Vader image. That was very cool. Now we've got a late entry, which I'm gonna try and bring in. So if you just give me 1 second.
I love this shot because you did show this one to me in advance.
So I'm just gonna.
And I
I
love this
think.
shot. Now I don't have the chat up anymore because my goal was to not cause disconnections anymore.
Right.
Thinking that that was it. Clearly, that's not it because the only thing running on the machine right now is this connection. I also don't know why Chrome didn't connect with audio, so you and I should connect later and see if I can figure that out.
Yeah.
But wait till you guys see this shot. This shot is so beautiful.
It's there. It is.
Wow.
And I think it's
Wow.
slightly cropped in because that's what Ecamm's doing when I'm first importing an image. But if you can see that, that's a stunning shot. That's an
Yeah,
absolutely
it
stunning
it
shot.
it will fill the screen, which means if it's a 4:3 image, or 2:3 image, it will fill the screen and crop the top and bottom. But even at 16:9 crop, look at this thing.
Yeah, it's that butterfly is tack sharp. I tell you what I love about this because I've seen quite a few of similar images, whether that's birds on sticks or insects on flowers and that kind of stuff. And one of the things that's usually very irritating is when there's too much texture in the background. So what you want to see in a sense
Yep.
is like a really super smooth, background. And I see a lot of those actually, and usually they're really super smooth. So it'll be like, for instance, let's say it'd be green, but it'll just be all green, and so you'd literally have it's almost like a studio shot. What I love about this is that we can see color in the background there. There's obviously, there's another flower there. We see some red and some yellow, and some texture in there, and yet it is still super smooth. I really like that. That's actually something I've seen a lot in Duncan Rechka's work as well, where you have like macro shots with some really cool colors in the background and stuff like that. So that in itself is very cool. I think this is really well lit. It's super sharp, but it's just absolutely tack sharp. And I always wonder how much patience you need to get a shot like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. First of all, the gear choices here, right? The butterfly is beyond tack sharp. I mean, I don't know that I could if that thing looked at me and went, "I'll hold here while you take the shot," I still couldn't get a shot this sharp. This is so perfectly done and not over sharp. It's just right. And yet, the way that they chose to set this shot up, the angle of attack to the butterfly at a slight angle as opposed to head on, not too much angle so that you lose the back wing, the lighting on the wing, the lighting on the head of the butterfly, the fact that this flower, luckily, I can see the stamens in the center are a different color from the petals, from the stem, and the lens choice doing that very natural soft bokeh in the background. I don't see that as somebody went in, masked everything, and did a blur in Photoshop, right? This is so real. I mean, I don't know how to stress that. This is so realistic that I'm sitting here like every shot that I see, I don't know about you, every shot that I see,
Oh, and Steve's gone again. It's and I 100% agree. This is such a realistic shot. It's really amazing to see that butterfly. And again, it's just the sharpness of it is fantastic. What I actually really enjoy in this shot is the depth of field. You can see that the front of the flower is the front petals are relatively sharp. The sharpness goes all the way through the actual butterfly, and the back wing, although it's slightly out of focus, it is still relatively sharp. So the fall off is really quite interesting in here. Let's see if we've got Steve.
Yeah, I'm back. I agree with you on the depth of field, by the way. Like the background was far enough back there. It must be something with my ISP today because I'm even getting some choppiness on the picture from you. Right. The back wing is just enough in focus to make you see the depth, but not make you go, oh, it's too shallow. But every shot I look at, my goal is always to try and make a photographer that's even submitted a fantastic shot find a way to even take it to the next level. And I'm sitting here trying to think, how would I take this shot to the next level? And I'm struggling with it. And the only thing I'm coming up with is the lighting is, other than the shadows under the wings and on the body, because of the angle of light. So you've got angle of light and crafting and molding on the butterfly. The flower light is really flat. All the leaves are pretty much the same lighting underneath. And I kind of wish there was something a little bit more shaping on the flower itself. Other than that, yeah, this is really, really well done.
Absolutely fantastic shot. Again, sometimes I wish, I'd specialized a little bit more on wildlife and macro photography, but it's never too late. Never too late.
No,
Seldom.
Start now, and Don's got classes.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. And if you if you want to learn more about macro photography, there's a super awesome recent Camera Shake podcast episode with Don Konrechka, which was fantastic. I've learned a ton. Speak to Don. So yeah. So thank you so much, everybody, for sticking around through through this very interesting disaster of a live stream. But again, if you've made it this far, which we're really appreciative of, just head over to buymeacoffee.com/camera shake, buy me a coffee. I need several of those right now. In fact, that's exactly what we'll be doing after this. 100%.
Yeah. And let me leave everybody with this before you close, and that is, it's super important that you get image critiques from people that you like and that you trust. Hopefully people that can stay connected to the frickin' internet at this point. But beyond that, you also have to be able to cull your own images and critique your own images. And so I can't stress enough, you need to find a way when you go out and you shoot, like for me, if I shoot a concert and I come back with 600 shots, you have to be able to look at your work and objectively say, yes, that one, no, that one, yes, that one, no, that one. And the easiest way to do that is remove yourself from the memory. Try and put yourself in Kirsten's position or my position right now. Look at your shot like you've seen it for the first time. A famous voiceover person supposedly once said, when asked, how do you do commercials about stuff that everybody understands, like shoes? And his comment was, it was Casey Kasem supposedly said this. And the comment supposedly was something to the effect of, I envision that I've never seen this product before. Wow, shoes. No more stubbed toes, no stepping on rocks, no hot, dirt or pavement or whatever. You have to do that to your shots. You have to look at your shots as though you didn't take them. You're an uninterested third party.
And there he's gone again. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. I'm sure Steve's going to be back any second now. But let me just say this. We're going to do this again. There's something very interesting that I've sort of been thinking about as we were doing this. And that's, here's Steve.
Sorry, I had to jump up and hang the noose from my ceiling here.
It's only a live stream. Man.
You get the idea.
Yeah.
Look at your shots objectively.
Yeah. So one of the things I've been thinking about is really the ability to really critique your own work. I found that it's sometimes very difficult because you're so subjective when it comes to your own work.
Yep.
And I think that's probably worth a whole live stream within itself. So once we've figured out what the gremlins in the systems were, we'll definitely be back and we'll do this again. Clearly. So again, thank you everyone for listening or joining us. But yeah, man, that was what a journey.
Wow. I'm afraid to say anything because as soon as I'm mid-sentence, it's going to disconnect. But thank you, Kirsten, for having me. I apologize. I will do better next time. I have never had my internet do this. So
Well, it's not only that. Like we had like my camera conked out at some point. So which is why you're seeing me on this
maybe it's neither of us.
webcam.
Maybe it's an issue with Ecamm.
I don't know. It seems very bizarre. Like everything, you know, everything's happening. But anyway, it's that's kind of important because we all learn from our own mistakes clearly, or at least we should.
Yep.
And so hopefully next time we can do a better thing. But generally, in principle, it'd be really great to see if if you found this useful, if you've learned a couple of things. I know I certainly have. And we'll be back with more image critiques. With the man that is synonymous with behind the shot, clearly. So if you want to get behind the shot, Steve's your guy. And I say that.
I appreciate it.
If you're interested in, obviously, if you are interested in photography podcasts, and I'm guessing you are, because why would you be here otherwise? That's the thing.
Right.
But yeah, if you're, if you're an avid follower and listener of the Camera Shake podcast, and you don't know Steve's podcast Behind the Shot, I highly recommend you check that out. Head over to behindtheshot.tv, where you can get all the latest information about his episodes and his guests. Super interesting show. It's very much based on an image and literally getting behind the shot. I love the show. I've been on the show and I've been listening to the show for years, literally for years. So highly recommend it. That being said, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. I might do a live stream next week. I'll be in Germany next week, so that'll be interesting. But I don't know. I might throw in a live stream or not. Let's see. Keep your eyes peeled on the Facebook channel, and of course our youtube.com/CameraShake, and you'll find out all the latest news. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Steve, for being part of this today. And
My pleasure.
And we'll see you again in the not too distant future. Thank you so much, guys. And that's us over and out. See you next time.